So I just wanted to make a quick video to talk about what I think is the most common question I get asked whenever anybody knows that I'm a trainer. So particularly like friends from back home or anything like that, the number one thing will be, what's a good program I can do for arms? Especially from guys. Or what's a good program I can do for legs or the glutes, that kind of thing. And I feel like it's not that that's a bad question necessarily, but it's just coming from a place that doesn't entirely get how this thing works. And I feel like there's endless programs online. You can Google a billion different bigger arms in 6 weeks or some kind of magazine selling bullshit headline of that nature. But again, that sort of misses the point. And what that point is, that let's say if we take a particular program, we'll call it Program A because that's a sexy name, and that's an arm program and it's got 3 sets of biceps and 3 sets of triceps 3 times a week. Random program. That'd be one of the worst programs ever written in the history of humankind, so never do that. But that program might be overkill for one person. It might be a drop under present volume for somebody else. It might be just right for someone else at that particular moment in time, but then 3 months down the line not be enough for them, or be too much for them. Say 2 months down the line, let's say they lose their job, they're going through a divorce, they're not sleeping very well, they're not eating very much, that might end up being too much. They might get beaten up. I mean, that was a very low volume example, so that's unlikely, but still. Life circumstances matter. Where you are in your training matters. How strong you are matters. How long you've been doing this. What your present volume is. Do you currently do a ton or hardly anything at all? And all these things matter. So one particular training program for one person that's excellent might be rubbish for somebody else. It might be too little or it might be too much. And then again, if we go back to that person for whom this particular training program is perfect, 6 months down the line, that's probably not going to be the perfect program for them because you adapt. And so I think what is far more useful, what would be a better concept to get out, is the fact that all training programs that work have an appropriate an appropriate level of volume for you at that time. And by volume, I just mean the amount of work done in a given period of time, usually a week or a month. And so what you really need to do is to understand where the boundaries are, I think, for appropriate volume for the vast majority of people, so that you can know, am I doing some insane amount of work here, or am I hardly doing any work here, or am I somewhere in this good zone that's been shown to have a far better chance of being optimal than anything else. And then if you are, you can just monitor your progress from there. So let's say here's the low volume point, here's the high volume point. If you're somewhere around here, let's do it the other way so I can see myself talk. If you're somewhere around here, in the middle of those two spots, and you're progressing really well, then don't change a thing. But if suddenly you start feeling a bit beat up and progress doesn't go so well for a while, then you can drop the volume. Or if progress doesn't go so well, but you're not feeling beat up at all and you generally feel fantastic, then you can up the volume a little bit. And then there's different ways of switching that up over time and making sure you don't stagnate and all that kind of thing. But let's get on to the meat of it. So what is this kind of range? If you understand that a training program isn't a real thing in the sense that most people think of it. It's not this finite thing that will just give you infinite gains forever. And everything just works in this range. So what is that? Well, it depends. The method of expressing that, what it is, depends on who you read, who you talk to, and that sort of thing. But everybody's drawing from the same data and from the same information. So despite there being different ways of expressing it, it turns out to actually mean exactly the same. My favorite is by Dr. Eric Helms. So he likes to say, stick somewhere between 80 to 210 reps per week per muscle group. So that's a massively broad range. So let's start at the bottom there, 80 reps for your back in a week. And that's assuming you're in this good rep range that I won't really go into now, of somewhere between 5 and 15 reps per set for the majority of your stuff. Then that could be 2 back workouts a week with 40 reps, so let's say 4 sets of 10 on each of those workouts. And that's the low end. And then at the 210, then you could have 4 back workouts a week with 50 reps on each of those sessions. So you can see how that's a giant variable. And somewhere in there is going to be your sweet spot for you at this particular moment in time. And remember, this barrier zone of 80 and 110, that doesn't mean that if you do 79 reps, you'll wither and die. It doesn't mean that if you do 211, your body will explode in agonizing pain. It just means that's like a bell curve, and somewhere in the middle is the good stuff. So it's just about finding a starting point, and I'd always say low ball it initially and then just work up from there. But if you get into the top end of that range and you start to feel beat up, it's probably time to drop it a bit. So just to reiterate that one, 80 to 210 reps per muscle group per week. Split up however you like, although research indicates that more frequent to a degree is better, say 2 or 3 times a week is better than doing legs on Monday and then legs next Monday. And then the same information from Eric Helms, but just expressed differently, Dr. Mike Israetel, I hope I'm pronouncing his surname correctly, he likes to say somewhere between 10 to around about 22, 24 sets per week, per muscle group. Again, assuming that you're in that 5 to 15 reps per set, then that basically equates as the same. So, I don't know, I've flitted between which one I use. At the moment, I think the Eric Helms way is probably easier, the 80 to 210 reps a week. But either way, just take on that information and understand that the program from Men's Fitness that says to get big legs, do 10 sets of squats every week. Well, that might be good for you right now, it might not. If it is good for you right now, it might not be good for you 6 months down the line. And it's all about understanding how much volume we as human beings tend to respond best to, and then finding where you are on that spectrum at the moment. Okay, hope that helps. If that was useful, please let me know. Give me a like and a subscribe because it makes my day, and Merry Christmas.